I think just the way that it's going to change every single industry is the most exciting part of it. Allowing the creatives, for instance, to be able to create their own creative economy, I think is going to be amazing, because like I said, you could have a 14-year-old digital artist in Venezuela being able to create a collection and sell out for millions. Like, this would just never happen before. The metaverse is seen as quite a buzzword now, because everyone's launching a metaverse, but the reality is you're not yet.
So today I'm joined by a seasoned brand strategist and advisor with a passion for a cutting edge in technology, specifically in Web3. He's the founder of Noir Branding Agency, which specialises in developing brands in the Web3 space. With his expertise and keen eye for market trends, he has helped numerous businesses thrive in a rapidly evolving space. Additionally, he's the co-investor and brand advisor for Rarestone Capital, and he's also the co-founder of Mirror World. And today we're going to dig deep into his story since he joined the show 2 years ago, and talk about his how he's evolved in this space, which, to be honest, confuses the hell out of me. So selfishly, this podcast is going to be an educational session for me as well. But he's the first person to ever come back on the show twice, so I'm super excited for this. A good friend and a hardworking guy, Anthony Scott Logan.
How you doing?
How we doing?
I'm good.
Welcome back. It feels so weird to interview a friend.
Because, it's weird.
Because since our last episode, we became good friends, and
but we didn't know each other the last time.
We didn't know each other at all. So it was quite fascinating to ask loads of questions. Whereas now I'm just asking you loads of professional questions to a friend. But how's things first?
Really good.
How's everything?
Fantastic. How are you?
Yeah, good. Had a nice week to kind of replenish the brain and relax and just chill, because it's been a million miles an hour, like everything right now. But I was looking this morning. It was 2 years ago since we recorded the show, close to 3 years actually.
Yeah,
about
October
2.5 years. Yeah.
2020. Yeah.
And I remember that guy that walked into the studio, and compared to the guy that is now, and you've evolved somewhat.
Yeah.
What
feels like a lot's happened.
Yeah, it does. I mean, rarely can you ever look back in a short period of time and go, wow, that much has happened. So I feel like when you actually look back and reflect, it's a time to be practice a bit of gratitude, to go, do you know what, pat on my back, I've come this far.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the world's changed so much, hasn't it, since then? There was so much going on, so much uncertainty. Yeah. And I think what happened is, for a lot of people, is, they asked that question, what am I doing? I think for you, for me, for a lot of our friends, and it allowed us to make some big decisions to sort of pivot and change the direction of our life.
Yeah, 100%. So first things first, what you before, it was more branding for big retail brands.
So it was more like tech companies.
Yeah.
So it's always been around the technology companies that we've worked with. But yeah, we had worked with fashion brands and property companies and, quite a few different types. We didn't really have a niche.
Yeah.
And then basically what happened is we were approached to help brand a new VC, which is Rarestone, that I'm an advisor for. And they were really entering the Web3 and crypto market quite fast, as things were blowing up in the previous bull market in 2020. So they came to us and said, look, we really need some help. We need to be able to stand out from everybody else that's out there. And we don't want to look like a traditional VC. And I don't know if you've ever been on VC's websites, but they're pretty much like a free page website, a bunch of logos that people have invested in, and then a very small about us, and not really thought leaders. They're kind of a bit ambiguous about who they'll invest in and how you can even get in touch with them. So Rarestone were like, we don't want to be like that. We're all very young. We're crypto natives. We want to be thought leaders within the space, and we want access to tier one investments and amazing founders. So as part of our research process, we do this intense deep dive into the team, their vision for the future, what the landscape looks like, and also, as a huge part of that, we have to actually understand and learn what Web3 is, how the metaverse, crypto, NFTs, how all of these are going to play a part, because we can't brand a company if we don't know what they do. So obviously with what they were doing, it's like a brand new industry. I'd held crypto since like 2017, but I didn't have like a deep understanding of the Web3 industry or how NFTs, the Metaverse, DeFi, all of these things were going to play out. So yeah, as we continue to do our research piece, we basically learned everything there was about what was happening in the industry up to 2020. So yeah, the more that we learn, the more I got excited about it. It's quite a rabbit hole. I don't know how much time you spent on YouTube looking into it, but I definitely, read some research pieces and really start to dive in, because it's extremely exciting and essentially, it's going to revolutionize every single business in the world and really change the way that we work and the way that we interact with each other and the way that the internet is. So yeah, as soon as we worked with Rarestone, we then worked on all of the brands that they were investing in. We'd help brand them, help them articulate what they do, how to find a unique voice, how to build those points of differentiation, and to create like a really strong visual brand identity and assets and a website, and really give them the best chance to launch at the beginning. Because one of the things with all sort of Web3 and crypto brands is they have they're solving extremely complex problems with these extremely complex solutions. So for them to articulate what they do, it's not an easy task, and it's never been done before. So as part of our brand strategy, we'd really how do we help them articulate what they do to the rest of the world, to make sure that not only do crypto natives understand what they're doing, but the rest of the world, because there's only like 4 or 5% of the world that even have a wallet at the moment, and that's in 2023. So you can imagine how many people needed to be onboarded essentially to the rest of Web3.
So just for the listeners to understand the conversations we're going to dig deep in today, obviously Web3 is one of them. Obviously crypto is another. And then we're also going to talk about AI and the Metaverse, and also some personal circumstances that cropped up. But yeah, I just want to kind of lay it out, because I really want people to stay tuned to this, because this is going to be such an educational podcast, and Anthony's going to help us understand the basics of Web3 and Metaverse, AI, everything, and how we can utilize that into our everyday life and get it to help us, because a lot of people, I think, see it as a threat at the moment. I see it as an added benefit. The AI side of things at the moment, I'm like, wow, it's blowing my mind. But these are the topics we're going to discuss, so stay tuned, because this is going to be an epic conversation. Now, first thing that pops into my mind: how on earth did you learn about something that was evolving? It wasn't even like, when you go to university or school, like you're learning about something that's already happened. This was something that was happening. There was no kind of like blueprint to this, or no textbooks to learn about it. Like, how did you actually go about learning it first, and understanding it?
So yeah, the first thing that I do, if you want to learn anything about Web3, crypto, the Metaverse, NFTs, is read the Bitcoin white paper. From there, you can do quite a deep dive into all of the projects that have come from there. To explain it quite simply, Web 1 was the start of the internet, which was sort of like a read-only internet. We'd go on there and we could read like information and articles, which is essentially loads of computers connected together, allowed us to read information from all over the world. Web 2 is when social media began. This allowed us to create our own content and share it with our friends. But essentially, we were products of, Facebook,
we don't own any of that content. It's our content, but we don't own it. They own it.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we become the product through their advertising model.
And they can just shut our pages down at any time, like you've experienced as well.
Yeah, essentially. And it's just a small group of people having a lot of power over the whole internet, which obviously is just not fair. So Web3 is, and the aim of Web3 is to build like a fair, connected and intelligent internet. So by using the blockchain, we can create a sort of a decentralized version of the internet that allows us to own assets, own our own content, intellectual property, be able to create content and share it with people, but also get paid for that content as well. So it creates everything into a digital asset, essentially. So Web3 is really this like super fair, advanced internet where everyone can make money and doesn't have to be a product of advertising. So yeah, I mean, it's quite easy to get behind because, if we can all make money and we can produce content, then that doesn't just leave it down to like a couple of influencers that maybe get brand deals, but it opens it up to everyone.
Because you can then go and sell your content to people, right?
Exactly that, yeah. And especially if you're an artist, that is the premise of NFTs, is allowing artists to be able to sell their work and allow them to be discovered in a way that they wouldn't be discovered before.
So if I'm an influencer, I mean, it's all well and good. Like, I've got a following, I can sell that content. But like, if you're just a normal person, I suppose I've actually answered my own question there, because necessarily it's all about just owning your content, right? You don't have to want to sell it.
Exactly, yeah. But also the way that it works within Web3 is it's a lot more about community. So, anyone that's interested in this sort of emerging technology, there's huge communities being built, and you've got undiscovered artists who can quite quickly create like a beautiful piece of art, share it amongst the community, and if people resonate with what they're doing, then there's a way for them to make money. Whereas opposed, to, let's say they just posted it on Instagram, they're just going to get some hearts, likes, and comments. They're not actually going to make any money from it. So it's very difficult. If you find someone that you really love their work on Instagram right now, you can't support them. Whereas NFTs allows us to be able to say, yes, I back you, and I love your artwork, and I want to pay my respect to you by either paying a tip to appreciate what you're doing, or be able to actually purchase your work. So that would never exist. You wouldn't
be able to pay that in physical cash, though. It'd have to be through a wallet and digital currency, right? Yeah.
So this is done through the blockchain.
Is there any way that you can migrate the two, or is it literally just impossible? You have to, if you're with Web3, you have to pay through some form of wallet, or is there actually a possibility to be able to do that with actual physical, just normal cash?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting point. So in the beginning, no, you did just have to have a wallet. But what's actually happening, we work with a company called MoonPay, and they sort of have on-off ramp wallets, which essentially will allow you to pay in fiat, normal currency, so US dollars or dirhams or pounds, and it automatically converts that into a stable coin or Ethereum, pays the artist in that way, and then converts back. You would never have to purchase Ethereum or Bitcoin or USDT or USDC in order to pay for it. You could just pay in your normal currency, and MoonPay will take care of everything else on their end.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, again, it's like that question. It's like at the beginning it didn't, but it's evolved to the point of where somebody's gone, right, okay. And I think that's it's almost like, because I'm new to learning Web3 and stuff like that. It's almost like everything's starting to make a little bit more sense as I understand it in more detail. But
touching on the point that you just made, I think there's a huge issue at the moment with this sort of obsession of onboarding the next sort of billion users to Web3. And I think we actually need to stop trying to onboard other people to Web3 and actually just make Web3 a lot more accessible. So as you mentioned, being able to purchase something in fiat currency, would massively change the way that people can interact with NFTs. And I think that the main issue that exists today is a lot of people don't really understand Web3. And I think with anything that any kind of product that you're using, you never really know what software it's been built on or how it's been built. And I think in order for Web3, the next iteration of the internet, to be really successful, we need to make it so it actually doesn't feel like Web3. So they don't have to interact with wallets. They don't have to understand which blockchain it's built on or where to get the next airdrop. So I think that's going to be part of what happens over sort of the next 12 months is just building it so it's much more integrated into what already exists.
Because it's true what you say there. Brings up a valid point. Is Web 2 was so easy to transition into that barely anyone really spoke about it, right? It was like, oh, social media, you can upload photos, great. It wasn't like Web 2 involved and stuff like that. I don't think even really I noticed that anyone say Web 2. It was just like Web 1, Web 2, and then Web 3, but that only was spoken about once Web 3 existed, and people compared the difference between Web 1 and Web 2. So yeah, it's, and like you say, it's like everything in life is if you don't understand it, then you'll just avoid it. But at the same time, it's like there's so much resistance to it. But it is literally, when you say it out loud from from a blockchain perspective is obviously everything that you're putting onto it is something that you own yourself rather than somebody else.
So it does make sense to use the technology, and I think it will benefit everyone in every single industry. Yeah. And it's not new either. Blockchain technology has been around for like 10, 15 years. Yeah. It's just not been utilized in the way that would describe this next iteration of the internet. So I do think that once we can make things, and this is what we're doing with brands as well, every time we're working with them, we're looking at what they're doing, we're going, right, this is extremely complex what you're doing. It would benefit millions and millions of users, but we need to make sure that we're not just focusing on how do we speak to Web3 natives and how do we actually just speak to everyone?
Yeah.
So really thinking about the communication and demystifying a lot of the jargon that's involved with it.
Yeah. And when it comes to, I mean, like I pay majority of the time through Apple Pay now. I rarely touch physical cash. Would that, I mean, apart from the token aspect of it, it's pretty much similar, right? Like
it's very similar. Yeah. You don't really know, what mechanisms are being used when you're using Apple Pay, do you? Or what software is being used?
You just use it because it's easy.
It's ease of use, yeah. And I do think what will be the difference, once we all have these different tokens that we've collected for different things from different companies we interact with, what would be the difference if we were clicking one button on the side, scanning our face and paying for something, whether it's coming from a crypto wallet or whether it's coming from, one of your bank accounts.
Yeah. With Web3, there's a number of components to it, right? And you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but from what I understand, it's decentralization, the blockchain, and then the token aspect of it as well, like cryptocurrencies and stuff. Is there a hierarchy of importance towards these key elements, or are they all just as important as each other on Web3?
So I think they're essentially part of the Web3 ecosystem. So blockchain is it's essentially an online ledger. It stores every single transaction. It's transparent for everyone in the world to see, which obviously doesn't exist with like bank accounts. You can't see every transaction that everyone does. So it's.
Sorry to interrupt there, but like I'm just thinking out loud here. Do you want people to see that? Do you want people to see how much money you've got? I mean, doesn't that then allow people to direct kind of like trying to get that money from you, basically?
Well, they would have to know that it was your wallet address. So
you
can remain anonymous. Obviously, there are sort of ETH domains that you can buy, and a lot of people, we're in a flex economy, so a lot of people who have some really expensive NFTs will buy an ETH domain, which would basically, with you, it would be like danny.eth, and people could see what's in your wallet. But you choose, if you want to show what's in your wallet. It's more about there being a very transparent record of every single transaction. And that allows things like intellectual property to be stored in images, to see who actually owns something, be able to see if business owners are transacting fairly. So, if you launch a token, for instance, and then you start selling it on everyone, once lots of people have invested in your brand and your token, then you can see, well, that founder has sold all the tokens. So why would we support this project? Yeah. So it does allow things to be, as I said, like a fairer, more open and connected internet this way.
But can people log on and see like effectively what your net worth is and what you've got in there, like your actual wallet? Like if I've got, say, for example, $5 million in ETH, can people check on my wallet and go, right, that guy's got $5 million in ETH?
Only if you had it as, say, an open wallet, so it was one of your wallets. If you kept it on an exchange, for instance, no one will be able to see what money that you have. Yeah. But it would all be if you made your wallet address public to who you are. So, I have multiple wallets. And no one knows what they are. They'd only know ones that they transact with. So you don't have to share everything. Yeah. It's more to allow a level of transparency when it's needed.
Yeah. Okay.
And the great thing is any of those transactions, once they're done, they're immutable on record. They cannot be changed.
Yeah. Like, how did you get started with wallets then? So like, if I'm listening to this and going, okay, cool, I want to try this out. How do you find, and how do you do due diligence on what is a good wallet?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of companies out there. I think it's always best to go with the most popular and reputable ones. MetaMask is pretty much the standard to open up a wallet. But also Ledger allows you to have sort of like your own wallet that you own. I'm sure you probably heard this phrase, which is not your keys, not your wallet. essentially what happens is a lot of people keep a lot of money on exchanges, and there's been a lot of fallout from exchanges that were, bad actors that were using funds like FTX, I'm sure you've probably heard of, and a few others that have done similar things. So I'd always recommend everyone to get a wallet from Ledger.
Yeah, that progresses quite nicely onto cryptocurrencies, because I suppose when you think about Web3, everything we talk about now and everything you hear is quite positive, but then the only downside to it is everything that's happened with cryptocurrencies. So how do they get how do they get cryptocurrencies back on the same kind of reputation as Web3? Because like you say, FTX is there any, I think Binance is literally the only exchange that's like pretty much left, and Coinbase, which is now public. And then you've got one local here called BitOasis, but again, I've not heard great things about them either. How do cryptocurrencies kind of get their reputation back off the floor from where it is?
Yeah, it's very difficult. And to be honest with you, I always try and separate sort of what's happening in the Web3 industry and this sort of technology evolution and coins and tokens.
Because it's two different things,
right? It's two completely different things. In the same way that you have tech companies and then you have stocks and shares, there are people that are trading, and there are people that are actually involved in the technology. For me, I'm involved in the Web3 industry. So I'm much more interested in how the technology will advance different industries and corporations.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot of bad news around tokens. And, there are a lot of bad tokens as well, a lot of bad actors. And I think in any adoption curve of new technology, you're always going to get bad people coming in and using it the wrong way. And I think that's what's caused it. Fortunately, we have Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are extremely positive tokens, and people understand what they are. And I think that there's some other good ecosystems that are being built and tokens around them. Yeah. But yeah, we were in a bit of a hype run last year of just brand new tokens being launched that had absolutely no use whatsoever.
Yeah.
I do think in the future that it will be less about sort of these tokens that are jumping around in price and much more around the technology and how, say, Ethereum and Bitcoin are used in the ecosystem of Web3.
Yeah, because I think the reason why Ethereum and Bitcoin are quite popular is because it's a lot of other coins use their blockchain, right? They build on their... Is that the right terminology?
Yeah, on Ethereum, you have a lot of people build on Ethereum. There's lots of other chains as well, different layers that are being built on. But yeah, Ethereum is the most popular and one of the most trusted. And the issue is not really with the blockchains. It's more what it has been is the people who are launching these tokens. And the way that they're acting with the tokens. Yeah. So, people, it's called a rug pull, which is essentially you launch a token, you tell everyone to invest in this token, and then you sell all of yours and dump on everyone else. So, this is just bad actors. This is not actually reflective of the industry. Yeah. You'll have bad actors in every single industry in the world. There's people, manipulating the stock market.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
It happens in every single industry.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're in a stage now where there has been a lot of bad press repeatedly. But I just try to sort of zone out from that and focus on the technology, because I think the technology adoption will just outrun anything to do with tokens. And then I think it will sort of be a separate industry on the side of traders and investors, similar to how the stock market works.
So what are you most excited about when it comes to Web3?
Yeah, I think just the way that it's going to change every single industry is the most exciting part of it. Yeah. Allowing creatives, for instance, to be able to create their own creative economy, I think is going to be amazing, because like I said, you could have a 14-year-old digital artist in Venezuela being able to create a collection and sell out for millions. Like, this would just never happen before. So I do believe that it's going to have a huge effect on the creative industry. but across all industries as well. It's really going to, like the gaming industry, for instance, this is going to be huge. We all play lots of games. We earn, these imaginary tokens for doing things. We can earn skins and outfits and weapons. And then nothing happens with it, whereas what's going to happen is this term that's obviously been thrown around called interoperability, which is essentially being able to jump from one game to the next game and use the same tokens, and actually being able to change and convert those tokens into real fiat money. And being able to wear your skins and your outfits and your avatar across multiple games. And this is all done through the blockchain. So I think that will I think gaming will be one of the biggest industries in the world. I think it will outpace everything else once this starts to come in.
So you can almost be like, if I'm understanding this correctly, like let's say, for example, you're a race car driver. I'm not saying that there is anything that you can monetize from this right now, but like rather than being a race car driver in the real world, you're a race car driver in the online world, and you can actually, that can be your job. You can race online and get paid for that. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah, and that's actually already happening. One of our clients called OBS, they're essentially building their version of the metaverse. Like a digital world for petrol heads to come in, race each other, bet on each other, scan their own car and create a digital version of it. It will allow any game to essentially become a career, which it kind of already is. There's people that's been paid for playing FIFA for years, so it's not that different. It's just the technology of how they will be paid, and also being able to transfer these different assets, I think, is going to be really key. If you're amazing at NBA or FIFA, for instance, then you can take all of the clout and everything, your trophies and everything, into the next game, and people can know, oh, that's the guy who won the NBA last year, and he can be a racing car driver as well. So it just allows you to transfer your personality across different games, which will be amazing.
It's quite cool, isn't it? I think my inner 13-year-old is like, wow, I wish I was 13 in this times.
And then there's obviously immersive experiences. So you've seen this. I think it was like a little Nas concert in Roblox, and this is really going to change the way that young people can interact. So they can actually meet friends in these games, and they can interact with people, and they can view concerts and have different experiences and share different assets.
Do you think it will make people unsociable though at the same time?
It's a tricky one, because I think
we'll always need human connection.
We've always had games, and in some ways it makes us super connected. You could say the same for social media. On one side of social media, people are walking around and they're staring at the phone and they're not staring at the world that's in front of them. But on the other hand, people have made connections from all over the world, found family members that they'd never know existed, and relationships, from different countries.
I mean, how many relationships are formed online now?
So many. So I don't necessarily think social media and gaming and technology is bad. I think that there's always limits to everything. Like, nobody should be spending 24 hours a day locked into a game. That's unhealthy for anyone. But it would be the same as no one should spend 24 hours outside playing football.
I suppose it's the same with
it's just balance.
It is balance. And it's like, you could say the same about food. It's like, food is there to make us live, give us energy. But some people will overconsume the food, make themselves unhealthy. It's like, you can't stop that. So it's the same with everything, right? It's like, you create it. It's a benefit. But if you overuse it, it's obviously going to be a negative.
You also can't stop technology, so it's constantly going to evolve and change, and things are being created better for humans, so that things are easier to use and more exciting and more engaging. Obviously there's always an element that businesses are creating things so that they can generate revenue, but I think overall the tech adoption has helped our lives and made us more connected in a lot of ways.
Do you think there'll ever be a Web 4?
Yeah, I think it will keep going. I think technology is going to completely evolve every couple of years. I think right now we're going through probably one of the biggest changes that anyone has ever experienced in their lifetime.
What type of brands do you see adopting it like early? Like what brands do you see in the world that are like, okay, they see that this is a valuable asset and they need to transition into it? Like,
yes, I mean, Starbucks have built a loyalty scheme where you actually are essentially earning a token and holding an NFT as your membership. Nike, I'm sure you've seen, have really dived in. So they acquired Artifact, which is amazing NFT artist, and built this whole collection, and eventually going to build out like this whole other world. And then obviously Adidas as well. They've been doing quite a lot within the space. But there's already tons of brands. Like, people think that we are just getting started, but there's so many brands that have already dived into Web3.
Yeah. So if I'm listening to this and I'm not a Nike and I'm a smaller brand, I don't know whether I've got like a physical product or a service that I'm offering. Like, how do those businesses kind of leverage Web3 to create some form of product? Like,
yeah, I mean, it really depends on the industry. So let's take music, for instance. The music sort of system of royalties is quite broken. If you're an artist, you make the majority of your money from shows right now. You have no connection to fans whatsoever, other than through social media. And let's be honest, if you go on any social media account, 60% of the comments are just bots and people trying to sell you crypto courses or things like that. So instantly music can become NFTs. Allows them to. So essentially, an NFT is a token. It is a smart contract attached to a digital asset. So let's say you attach this contract, this digital asset, to a song. You can program it with the royalties, the masters, who gets paid, and then it can automatically happen through microtransactions. So instead of going on Spotify and waiting 6 to 9 months to get paid, you can be paid every single time someone listens to your song. And then we've also got NFT tickets, which is going to blow up the events industry. So right now, you try and buy tickets to go and see Kevin Hart, whatever. I think he was on at Abu Dhabi recently. Yeah. So you try and buy one of his tickets. They're all sold out. You end up having to go on, say, Ticketmaster or one of these competing sites. You'll end up paying maybe 3 or 4 times the amount of what the ticket was actually worth, because on all of these websites, they have the ticket touts, they have these bots that are auto buying all of the tickets through different IP addresses, and you end up spending a fortune trying to get a ticket, which is unfair, and the artist never gets any of the money either. So with NFT tickets, you can just program it so it can only ever be sold for this amount of money. You can, with any of these NFTs, everything can be programmed with a set of rules, and the set of rules on events tickets can be, you can only ever transfer it for the same amount that it was worth. You can attach sort of like an authenticity to the ticket, so no forgeries will happen anymore, because you can see straight away, this has been minted on the blockchain, this is the official ticket. It can't be hacked, it can't be changed, it's immutable on record forever. And it belongs to this person because this is their wallet. They can prove that through identification. And then also it allows the artist to then have a forever connection, because if you hold that NFT ticket in your wallet, they can airdrop you their latest song, they can give you discounted tickets to the future. So they've essentially bridged the gap between that connection between fan and artist, which just doesn't exist right now.
Yeah. Do you think there'll be, do you like promoters and stuff like this? Because this is another huge topic that we're opening here, but like promoters in general, let's say for boxing, let's say for the UFC example, they're renowned for taking all the cash, and the fighters and people like the artists, let's say, even if it is fighting, the artists are the one that get paid the less. So do you think that promoters will slowly start to drift off into the past, and it will just be solely the artist and the fan that are connecting?
It could be, but promoters do a job that I don't think the artists can do. So they go out and they create all these connections, and they promote. So I think that will always exist. I think that new promoters will come along and they will use NFTs as a way to do it, because it just makes a lot more sense. You actually build a solid connection with, so say if it is a fight, for instance, you could make a rule that when you do your next fight, anyone who held the NFT from, let's say the Jake Paul fight that was on the other day, you could have a rule in there which was anyone who held an NFT from that fight automatically gets a discounted ticket for the next fight.
Yeah.
Or anyone that holds that NFT can automatically so they can log onto a streaming website, connect their wallet, show that they've got that ticket NFT, and then they're allowed to watch the streaming of it. So there's lots of things that can be done with the ticketing. I don't think it will like destroy industries and like cut people out of jobs. I think it will just make it a lot fairer, and it will be extremely transparent because everyone will be able to see everything through the blockchain.
Yeah, interesting.
It's just there's a lot more uses. That a paper ticket is, what's the use in that? It ends up just going in the bin straight away, which is just a waste. It never needed to be printed.
Exactly. And you do see that like changing a lot now. Like I recently bought tickets for Guns N' Roses, and you have to download an app to access it, and you have to enter it with an email address and a login details, and then you get the tickets 14 days before the event, because what they don't want is people reselling it and making loads of money from it. And the only reseller can actually be the application. So you can sell it, but it's a controlled resale through the application. So I suppose that's already a transition that's already started.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the long way round. If they just issued it as an NFT, they could do all of that straight away.
Yeah, and then you can make up correct me if I'm wrong, but with NFTs, you can actually create a rule so that if it gets resold, then the owner of that NFT gets a portion of the resale value as well, right?
Exactly that, yeah. You can program it with pretty much whatever you want in terms of rules. But you could also make sure that it's only ever sold for the exact price that it was, to make sure that no one's actually ever making any money off it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a benefit for sure.
I think that's what the artists want. They don't want people spending $10,000 on a ticket. That's not fair. They want it that every single fan that they have has an equal opportunity to go to the events. Yeah. And when half of them have been bought by ticket touts, you'll actually see at some events where the ticket touts don't sell all the tickets. So it will be a sold out event and there'll be lots of empty seats. And you imagine, like a 13, 14-year-old kid who's dying to see that artist, and they don't get the opportunity because the ticket tout has taken them. So it's going to solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, for sure. We obviously spoke a lot about Web3 and those technologies and everything around the benefits to that. Now, another part of the kind of like evolution of Web3 has also been the Metaverse. Now, this is something that really blows my mind, because I'm like, another world, like augmented reality, I think that's what they call it. It's like, it just blows my mind. Like, and I think, again, it's just, for me, I'm a person of logic. So I'm like, if I can understand it, I can process it, and I can really understand the benefit of it. But right now, I just don't get it. How far are we away from the Metaverse actually being a real thing?
Yeah, I think quite far. Like sort of 10, 15 years maybe.
Okay.
A lot of it's to do with the technology, and the technology is not there.
Yeah.
So essentially, we've got like the real world that we exist in today. And then we're going to have another layer on top of that, which is sort of AR. And I think what's going to happen over sort of like the next 5 to 10 years is we transition away from using a mobile phone and we actually just start having glasses. So, maybe it'll be contact lenses or, just a normal pair of glasses. And in these glasses, it will allow you to use AR to essentially lay a digital layer on top of the real world. So, for very simple things, think when you're driving, you'd be able to see Waze or Google Maps, the directions straight in your eye. So, you'd be looking at the road and you'd be able to see all the directions of where you're going. Or, you'll be able to ask it, take me here to these directions, or show me the nearest shop that I can go to. So there's lots of uses like that. I think that we'll be able to consume social media through that. So we just won't need to hold a phone anymore. And I think when we're walking down the street, there'll be essentially like a whole new world laid on top of our current world. So if you walk past the shop, you'll be able to see like what offers they've got on and what promotions they're trying to push. You'll be able to see street art that could be collected as NFTs on the wall. There's going to be endless uses for it. There'll essentially be hidden treasures, and I'm sure you've ever played Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
It's quite a good example. I think we'll essentially walk around these cities and there'll be tasks to complete and things that we need to do. And then using Internet of Things, which is essentially connecting everything through 5G. When you complete a task, for instance, a lamppost will light up, or a sign might light up outside a building to show that you've completed the task. But yeah, there'll be so many different uses. So that's sort of like the AR layer, and we're working with quite a lot of clients that are already doing this. So there's obviously AR and there's holography as well, which is quite interesting. And this might also change the way that we communicate with people. So instead of Zoom calls or us doing a podcast like this in person, I would just be able to be a hologram sat opposite you and us have a conversation, and it would feel as close as we're going to get to being in the same room as each other through AR. Then as we transition past that, obviously, I'm sure you've seen Oculus and the Meta Quest and, all of these different VR that exist. So the VR is going to get to a point, and it's pretty good now, but it's going to get to a point where it's very small, probably, will be essentially a pair of glasses or something similar to that. And that allows you to actually plug into a new world. So that is virtual reality. And that will essentially, every business will be able to build their own world. So let's say H&M, for instance, or a different fashion brand, they'll be able to build their own virtual shop, and you'll be able to go in there, interact, buy things, collect NFTs, view a runway, where you're at a live fashion show and you can sit and see the new pieces coming in, and then you'll be able to try on the clothes as well, because using sort of the different filters, you'll be able to see on your avatar how it's going to look on you. So yeah, there's going to be endless opportunities. Every business will essentially be in the metaverse, but we're so far away from it. And the metaverse is it uses and it's part of Web3, but it's quite different to it. A lot of people try to relate it to Ready Player One. I don't know if you've ever seen that film. Which is an amazing film, but it's quite a dystopian look of our future.
Yeah, it's like the world ends, and then it's like this. There's this reality different place that you go to. I mean, that's why, like, for anyone that kind of heard me like laughing a little bit there, it's because I was like literally mouth wide open, like I couldn't. It's so far from where we are now. That it really is like you're like looking into the future, and it's like. It's mind-blowing.
But it already exists in a way, because every time we play a game, we are in their world, right? We jump in this world, play Mario Kart, whatever, and we're, it's fine. We're happy being in that surrounding. It doesn't freak us out, So I don't think it's such a hard concept to grasp. It's more just a much more immersive internet that allows people and places and assets to be connected all in one place. And I think it will be great for creativity, for collaboration, for building community. I especially think it's going to be really good for just removing borders from the world. Look at how business is done. It's always been done and transacted between different countries, and especially a lot more done in the West. I think this will allow anyone from any country to collaborate and work with people from all over the world, which will change the way we hire, change the way we work. So there's a lot of benefits. It's not just gaming as well.
100%.
And I think this is the thing, is people think, oh God, we're all going to be sat there with a headset on for 20 hours a day dating a robot. There's probably some people that might want to do that, but that's not really what it is. It's more, how do we make a much more immersive internet? At the moment, if I want to check out what a restaurant's like, for instance, in Dubai, I can watch a video, I can go on their Instagram, but I'd prefer to be able to walk around the place and see what it's like. I prefer to be able to experience as much as I can. So I think we'll actually get rid of websites over the next sort of 10 years as well. And it will all be these sort of like mini worlds that we're diving into, and we can experience much more than just text and images.
One thing that pops into my mind is when I was about 6 years ago, I went into Harvey Nichols in Dubai, and there was a person with a virtual reality headset, and you put the headset on, and I was walking across a plank of wood above the New York skyline, and then the wood snaps and you feel yourself falling. Now, I was standing on solid ground, but my eyes were seeing something different. So the senses it gave me was the falling feeling in my stomach and all these different feelings. Now, obviously you have feelings like that, but will the metaverse ever get to the point where you can smell, feel, like the sensation, apart from like almost like out of body experiences within that world?
Yeah, so I think there's quite a few companies already working on that, and they have these sort of hap suits which allow you to experience the feeling. So it's sort of like these sensors all over your body, and say for instance you walked into something, you would actually feel that you walked into something.
Yeah.
And yeah, someone's working on smell and sound. I think all of these things will be designed in the future, and it will be as immersive as it can be. I actually put my dad on that same plank of wood one, and he is absolutely shit scared of heights.
Mate, it was
and
so
he wouldn't
scary.
even do 1 foot, and he was sweating and shaking.
It was,
and
honestly,
I'm like,
it was
Dad,
scary.
You're in my living room, it's fine. And he just would not have it. And I was like, come on, just try it. It will help you get over your fear.
Yeah.
And he just was not having it whatsoever.
Nah.
So it does feel very, and the crazy thing is it's not realistic. It's quite cartoonistic when you're in it as well, right?
You just feel it.
Like, still, even in a cartoon world. Yeah.
Honestly, I was like literally itching my feet out. And it was horrible. The feeling was horrible. But I suppose also as well, what's good about kind of like the metaverse as well is I'm sure that will also help advance the healthcare industry as well, right? Because you can literally put people in a live environment and perform operations without actually performing it on people, right?
Yeah, well, you'd be using robotics to obviously be able to perform the operation, but the person will be able to oversee or control. But yeah, I think, it will advance many, many different organizations because of the connectivity part of it.
Yeah.
Being able to be living in one place. If you're, say, a specialist that works on something and there's a patient that needs that specialist and they're 20 hours away, they're not going to do a FaceTime, are they? So this allows them to be as immersive as they can be.
You can almost log into a suit, perform that operation, but it's all robots that are doing it rather than, wow. I mean, it is fascinating when you really think you get to that point. It's like, wow. I mean, crazy. I mean,
yeah, it's exciting, but we are quite far away, and I think there was a lot of the metaverse is seen as quite a buzzword now because everyone's launching a metaverse, but the reality is you're not. Not yet.
Yeah.
So, there's obviously there's some cool companies that exist though. There's a company called Spatial where you can design your own worlds and you can put your headset on and you can walk around them, and that's pretty dope. I've built some like art galleries for clients and a few different kind of branded spaces where people can walk, and we also held an event in the metaverse as well, or in these spatial places, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And there was lots of different people from all over the world and they were interacting with each other. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
So you like turn around and suddenly there's like 20 people next to you. But it was, yeah. And for some reason, like no one had legs for quite a while, like just in Spatial, they didn't have legs.
So you just turn around,
just like all these people just floating torsos around, and they've given them legs, and now that's even creepier, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very exciting industry to be in, and it's very exciting to watch it unfold. And I, as I always say to everyone, the best thing to ever do, just like with social media, is just play around with these things. Have fun with it, start to learn about it. You don't need to read 20 books on what the metaverse is going to be. Just start playing around with what's already been built. And there's so many amazing companies out there with such young employees building like these, incredible projects at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, the metaverse blows my mind. And like you say, I suppose because of the time frame for it to evolve, we're going to learn a lot. But one time frame that hasn't given us a lot of time to learn is artificial intelligence. How are you kind of like incorporating that within your strategies with working with businesses now?
Yeah, I mean, there's hundreds of AI companies launched off the back of OpenAI and Stable Diffusion. It's a minefield, but I think it's like the most exciting time ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like it's been like it's been working away for years. Nobody's known about it, and then they've gone, poof, here's some AI for you, and everyone's gone, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that doesn't know about AI at the moment. Anyone that comes to me and says, I don't know what Chat GPT is, I'm like, are you living under a rock? Like,
yeah, I literally use it every single day. It's like a member of the team now.
Yeah.
Like, I just ask it things all day. I put in all of our data from the business. I'm constantly asking it to analyze things. Like, it's insane. But saying that, ChatGPT in a year's time will be like a calculator compared to all the other AI that's coming out, because it's just using generative learning language models. So it's taking the information that it already has and then figuring out basically what we would say next, or what the answer would be to that.
Yeah.
What's going to be really scary and really exciting is AGI. So
what's
AGI is artificial general intelligence. And this is the next thing that OpenAI have recently started talking about. So AGI is essentially when AI becomes smarter than humans. So it has essentially consciousness. So it starts to...
So it has a conscience, is what you're saying?
In some regards, yeah. So it's... the current model of AI is just, it's taking information and it's learning from that. It's a language model. The, AGI, which doesn't exist yet, but is being worked on, will allow the computer to essentially think for itself and be able to make decisions like a human would, but much better than us.
Yep.
So that will change everything. I mean, there's a lot of use cases out there and no one really knows what will happen. But I mean, if you think everything a human can do, a computer can do.
Yeah.
So once it can think for itself, it will start solving a lot of the problems that we have. So if there's an issue that exists, there's no reason why AGI wouldn't just create the app itself, to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Rather than a human needing to sit there and code it and develop it. I don't even think we'll need to tell AGI that we need to solve it. It will just figure out that things need to be solved and it will start solving it. Maybe launch companies, maybe I'm going too far. I don't know. But, if it's the smartest human in the world, what can it do? What can it figure out in terms of science and medicine and space travel? It's going to learn more and a lot faster than we ever will.
Yeah. When you think about it as well, you think about all the information you can find online now. And with that information, I mean, if you combined all of that information online about a specific topic, and that was held within one specific space, that would be the smartest person, because it's taken all that information out there and combined it and stores it within one space. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, but do you know what's fascinating about it is that humans have created this, and how funny is it that this is something that we've created, but we've created it to be smarter than ourselves, which is mind-blowing in itself. But do you ever see it replacing things? Because I think everyone gets scared about, I'm going to lose my job. But
I mean, look, that's been technology since day one, right? There was the typewriter, and then we created computers, and people stopped using typewriters. And in my industry, graphic designers used to print these, ginormous letters and actually, press them onto paper and print things out. That was, that changed. I think it's less a case of people losing their jobs and more about things becoming automated and then humans controlling what is being automated. So, if you can, I think there'll be a bunch of careers where if you can use AI, then that will become a job in itself.
Yeah.
So it's less about them stealing jobs. I just think this has been happening forever. This is evolution, and it's not a case of all these people will be out of work. It's, well, we can do this faster and better, and we can we can plan more. We can already print buildings in 3D printing. So there's tons of things that will just advance the rest of the population and give us more time to work on other things.
Yeah.
It's no different from, think of any industry in like engineering or mechanics. Everything had to be done by hand. Then suddenly we could do things with robots, and everything got done a lot quicker, which allowed us to build much more bigger, advanced mechanics and cars and everything else that's been produced. If it allows it to be quicker and faster, it allows us to spend more time thinking and creating new things.
Yeah. So how do you keep up to date with all this stuff? Because obviously ChatGPT, I mean, I'm the sort of person that I'm open-minded to everything. And I'm so glad that I am that way, because in every walk of life, I'm open to other people's opinions. And it's the same with trying new things. And when I saw this, I was like, I'm going to try it. And then I tried the WALL-E. Is it WALL-E?
WALL-E, yeah.
WALL-E, which is the picture one.
No, sorry, DALL-E.
DALL-E, that's
DALL-E,
it.
yeah. WALL-E's that movie. That little robot
Disney,
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, DALL-E.
Yeah, but DALL-E. And then there's so much now, and it's almost like you don't need like a content creator, because you can tell me about this, bang, there you go. And even like me and my cousin's he's got his own business back at home as well, and we're chatting about ChatGPT. I mean, he messaged me a couple of days ago saying, I've been using it for months, and he's like, have you heard of ChatGPT? I was like, yeah, of course. And I was like, mate, try this out. And I was like, whenever you have like a topic that you want to understand, and I mean, he's putting it tell me what I need to order for a family of 4 for the shopping list this week. And then it will give him a shopping list. I'm like, right, now, when you ask it something, ask it individually about every single point it said and explain it in detail. And he did it. I was like, oh my God. And it's just amazing. It's like, it's almost like new education can be like, it's just an amazing tool. I think. I don't think it's a disadvantage to anyone. I think it's a huge advantage, and also as well, I mean, it still has some way to go, because I believe when I've asked it stuff before, it's like this is only data up until 2021, so there may be new data out now. So it's still got time to evolve, but still, it's amazing. There's so many ways that it can help. I mean, I think even when it comes to schooling now, schooling needs to have this a part of its learning curriculum, because if you don't learn all this stuff now as a kid and you go into the workplace, and we're already migrating this into the workplace, then you're literally just going to leave school and literally be unemployable, because you don't know any of the skill sets that is required now, right?
Yeah, and it's strange that people are essentially calling it cheating, or they basically are referring to it as something that's bad for humanity. It's already just scraping what's already out there.
Yeah.
It's not cheating.
Yeah.
If I go on Google, I can find out anything that I want. Like all the information is out there. There's books and libraries with all this information. The problem is access.
Yeah.
And the time it would take me to scrape 50 articles on Google, it'll do that for me in seconds and spit back out an answer. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's a base model. You can take from it and then conduct your own opinions from it. You don't have to be like, right, that is the only answer that there is. So I think it will change the way we consume things and the speed that we can consume things, which will ultimately change education. Because as a kid, all you do is ask questions. I remember when I was a kid, I was like, Dad, what does this mean? What does this mean? Now I can just continuously get all those answers, and those answers are education. That's all you're learning at school anyway. You're asking questions, you're learning new things, you're trying to understand things. So I think it will, in some ways, it could replace teachers.
Yeah.
Like, I do think there's obviously an element of human interaction that needs to be had with teachers. But as we know from the last podcast, I'm not a huge believer in the previous education system we've had. I don't think it works for every type of person.
Yeah.
But I think AI is going to equip young kids to have massive amounts of information.
Yeah.
And I think AI will kill Google for sure. Because why would you Google things when you can get the exact answer rather than here's 60,000 results that might be the answer?
Well, technically, Google was artificial intelligence, right? You'd ask it a question, it'd spit out loads of answers that relative to your question. It's pretty much the same thing, right? I mean, the only difference with Google and AI is you ask AI, I mean, it comes up, it gives you, I asked it something the other day, I was like, tell me the scientific response to this. And it spat out the exact
Google is not the exact.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. And
and that's why you think, it's going to overtake Google. Yeah.
You also have a lot of problem with Google is that, any website can be scraped and it could be a lot of misinformation. This can also happen in AI as well, because it's feeding from the same data pool, which is also an issue. And I think, the authenticity behind information is going to be extremely important, because if someone can alter what that says, they can, what happened 200 years ago in this historic event, if someone can edit what that is, then people of the future are going to believe that's what happened.
Yeah.
If they haven't got information to the history books or whatever, or they're just young and impressionable. So as long as it's not used, for misinformation.
Yeah.
But I do think that's a problem on Google now, is I can type something in and, there's 20 opposing views, so then you have to go through and think critically for yourself and figure out, is this real? Is this not real?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you mentioned a point about schooling. I mean, obviously we sing from the same hymn sheet, right? I mean, I was actually chatting to my therapist about this last week, and he was like, you didn't fail school just wasn't for you. And it was so true, because every time I was like, I failed school, I got one. But ultimately, they create a category, especially when we were kids, they created a category of what made you good and what made you bad. And remember when you didn't score high on your GCSEs, and it was like, oh my God, it's the worst day ever. I'm not going to amount to nothing. And then you look at the kids that actually did their GCSEs now, and you're like, wow, what I've learned there. But what scares me about schooling at the moment is I don't see them adopting this sort of stuff at the moment, because I consume a lot of stuff online. I like to get my news sources through, stuff that I see online. I don't like to listen to mainstream media. But two of the things they were talking about on school recently was ChatGPT and how they were talking negatively about it because they, again, as you mentioned, they said student cheats and uses ChatGPT to pass exams.
Well, you could do that with Google.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. But I know that the schools in the UAE, I actually read an article. Obviously over here, they're always trying to be ahead of everyone else. And they are introducing AI and also Web3 blockchain technology into the schooling system and teaching kids.
Yeah.
And I think all kids should be learning how to code. I think that should be, part of the syllabus for sure, with maths, English and science. But, one of the hardest things with schools is it's sort of like one rule for all and it just doesn't work. We're all so different. Everyone's got a different way of learning. Some people are great like working with things physically and doing more like projects and working with teams. And some people are great at sitting there and memorizing something and then repeating it back 3 days later, like for me, I could never do that. My comprehension is terrible. Yeah. I do not remember anything I've read.
Yeah.
So I have to like make notes and break questions down and stuff. It just doesn't work that way. But I think what will eventually happen is we have so much more information on the different ways that people learn now. So I feel like schooling system, it has to change. It doesn't even have a choice anymore.
Yeah.
It has to adapt. Like the teachers of tomorrow are like young kids who may have failed the schooling system themselves. So, I feel like a lot of the opinions that are being brought through, a lot of the teachers and the people making these decisions are now people that understand that maybe the teaching system didn't work the way it was meant to and starting to adapt different ways of learning.
Yeah.
But over here, they're trying to embrace it massively. So I was reading an article like 2 days ago.
Yeah. Do you know what I'd love to see as well is I'd love to see teachers being introduced that have just done really great things in business and whatever their specific field would be is actually to go back and teach that within schooling. So like when I was like 12, 13, I can't remember what exact age it was. I was given a choice of what lessons I wanted to learn and what I wanted to focus on. Being able to then choose that curriculum and go, I want to learn how to build business. I want to learn how to raise capital. I want to learn all those basics.
Managing money. I think that should be like the number one lesson to learn that they never teach anyone is like finance and how to set yourself up for success in the
life
future.
Skills.
Compounding interest, savings, no one had a clue about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But we need better role models in school. I think that's one of the problems and that's because we went to a normal school. I think a lot of the private schools, their teachers are sort of like ex-professionals in industries. But obviously we didn't have that luxury. So.
Yeah. But back to the AI, when it comes to like this is a particular skill set. How do you see it's going to evolve then over the next kind of few years? And, is it just going to be about how you can research things or is it literally just going to be able to create, like as a specialist, how do you see that? How do you see artificial intelligence progressing?
Yeah, well, so there's obviously the general intelligence that I told you, which I think will just change.
But with the general intelligence, will it just create, like, for example, if I say, design me a picture, write me a business strategy, right? It will just create everything, yeah? Well,
you can already do that through ChatGPT. So, you can already ask it to create an entire video just off a few prompts. So, these things already exist. I think it will be much more that instead of it just doing something for you, it will say, well, have you thought about this? And why don't we do it this way? So it will act more like a human. But I really don't know enough on this topic. It's something, I'm finding out day by day, and I really don't know enough about the topic. I'm just learning every day as everyone else is. But I think, there's absolutely unlimited possibilities for how it'll be brought into your business. I'm already using it as it's essentially a member of the team, ChatGPT. I ask it questions all day long. It's great for helping you structure content, come up with different ideas, come up with great headlines for things. So it's already extremely valuable. And as I said, I think in a year's time, I think it will be like the calculator.
Yeah.
That's how little it will be doing in comparison to what will be available in a year's time. I think it's going to advance even over the next sort of 3 to 6 months. I think it's going to advance in an exponential rate that none of us are prepared for. and it will just change everything that we know. But how exciting is that? You know, must
massively.
Be like obviously we were quite young when the internet started, but I remember being like, holy shit, what is this? You know?
Yeah.
And I think it will be the same thing. And then there'll be tons and tons of entrepreneurs being born out of this, just like there was when the internet was born. And as Web3 has started to come into fruition, there'll be absolutely tons of AI entrepreneurs launching different, products and business solutions to things that haven't been able to be solved for years, and also new issues that are going to come up against. But it will revolutionize creativity, because you'll be able to create anything within seconds through a series of prompts. I don't think it will destroy creativity, though. I think it will essentially work as for mood boards, and to give other people access who maybe aren't creative to be able to prototype things and bring their ideas to fruition. But yeah, it's the most exciting time in technology right now. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, I think 100%. I completely agree with you. I think any creative that's worried about their jobs getting taken, I think they should stop worrying, because if anything, like you say, it's going to assist them. So, I tried it out with some social media stuff, and I was like, create me a picture based on this, and this. And it came up with something, which was cool, but like I needed more. So it's like, it's almost like you can, like you say, create a mood board from it and go, right, this is my vision. Now go and create something that combines all of this together and uses that human element to create that. So yeah, it's a huge asset, and it's not going to replace anything.
Have you looked at generative art?
Not yet, no.
Okay, so generative art is essentially when you're asking, so DALL-E or, Stable Diffusion, any of these other tools that are out there, essentially what it's doing is it's scraping all of the artist's work, taking it, and then creating this new image based upon other people's work. So obviously, as you can imagine, there's a huge problem there with intellectual property.
Yeah.
Because, you're essentially using other people's work to create new images. And then if you then go on to sell those images, you are making money off somebody else's intellectual property.
Yeah.
So this is one thing where AI and the blockchain are starting to connect together, because in order for people to see who actually owns something, it needs to be verified and stored on the blockchain immutably as a record to say this is owned by this person. And then when AI scrapes this image, essentially, it can see the smart contract information that I mentioned earlier to say, well, this is actually owned by that person, so they actually do need to get paid intellectual property rights on that. So this is a huge problem that's happening right now. There's a big battle going on between Getty Images and Stable Diffusion. So Getty Images are suing Stable Diffusion because they've just used all their images without paying for them to create new images. So there's also a lot of holes within the industry, but it's quite interesting how AI and blockchain are going to essentially have to come together. And it just shows how much the blockchain technology is a solution for the majority of problems that we have in terms of digital ownership and, being able to actually verify who owns what and who doesn't.
So you mentioned Getty Images was suing who?
Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion allows you to create sort of images from anything similar to DALL-E.
It's a very similar kind of like platform, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. Definitely going to be checking all these out afterwards.
Yeah, I think intellectual property is going to be a sort of huge topic this year of who actually owns what. And yeah, I believe that it will really advance the Web3 industry and the digital ownership issue that exists today.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I just think about this and think, God, if I was 16 years old leaving school now, I would be rubbing my fingers going, look at all the assets that we've got at our fingertips to just go and be the best at whatever we want to do.
I mean, the good news is you can still rub your fingertips today, because it doesn't matter what age you are. Sure. There are millions of business ideas that are going to come out of this. And if this is not where your attention is, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
Because if you're still trying to create a solution to a problem that existed 3 or 4 years ago, or, the next Uber, the next Deliveroo, for example, and you're not thinking about how Web3 and AI is going to interact with your business, that business idea that you've got is going to be irrelevant in 5 to 10 years. So, this is where the focus needs to be now. This is what people should be working on. And to be honest, there are millions of people working on them. And the industry is very, very exciting. Everybody is extremely helpful. Everybody wants everyone to win, which, is a great thing about the sort of Web3 ecosystem and community that exists.
Yeah.
And all the clients I work with, it's all about partnerships. So every client that we work with, we're always trying to connect each other together to create these ultra partnerships between each other to really advance technology and the sort of mission of Web3.
Yeah. There was a question I wanted to ask you at the beginning that we just got so into it and engrossed in the conversation. I forgot to ask it, but obviously 2.5 years ago is when we did the last podcast. You just moved to the UAE. What would you say you've learned in that time?
Yeah, a lot. I felt like my life completely changed, to be honest with you.
It doesn't even feel like 2.5 years ago, to be honest. It feels about 10
like
years.
10 minutes. Oh, you think? I think it's...
No, it's in like what you've learned in that time.
Right, yeah, I know. Well, it feels like the time has gone really, really fast. But yeah, I feel like I've come out a complete different person from when I met you. Because obviously I just arrived in Dubai. I literally knew 2 people. I had no idea what I was doing, or even I didn't even have plans to live here. I'd basically just come here for a meeting and was like, this place is really warm and, this is a great place for business. And the UK was locked down. So I was like, I'm definitely going to just stay here. And now, I see the rest of my life here, really, my whole future. The way of life, how people work in business, the opportunities that are available is just so different to what I'd experienced, growing up in Lincolnshire and in Manchester. Here, I felt like I'd been really supported by everyone that I've met and just surrounded by very like-minded, forward-thinking, ambitious entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And then obviously the blockchain sort of and Web3 movement that's happening across the world is, thoroughly embraced by the UAE, and they are pushing people to work in the industry. So this city feels like it is advancing as quick as the industries are in AI and in blockchain. And to me, that just makes it the most attractive place in the world to live.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be living in a place that is behind. I want to be living in a place that's leading the way.
Yeah.
So it's been great.
That's what I hate to seem like somebody that always like sings the praises, but I was kind of talking about this in my previous episode that there's so much. They get so much stick from the Western world in how the Middle Eastern culture and way works, but you look at what they're doing here, and you just think to yourself, like you mentioned earlier on, if you're not getting on this kind of like wave of technology, you're going to get left behind. The Western world, I feel, is being left behind in how to adopt, run, just genuinely provide a life for people. It's hard to believe that you think now that in the UK, they're entering recession, whereas in the Middle East, it's like the place is booming. Like I've never been busier with work, and they're adopting so many different things and promoting X, Y, Z, opening this, facilitating that, making it life easier for other people. Whereas you go 7 hours to the West and it's like, life is just a struggle. Can't even afford to pay for your heating. Taxes are going up. It's mind blowing when you think about it, because the center of the earth, I think, is here in the Middle East and how they're doing. Yeah, literally. But I feel for everything.
Of course, I agree.
So, how's the business doing? One thing we haven't really spoken about too much. We've spoken about how you've evolved into Web3, AI, Metaverse, and stuff. But how's the business doing? How's Noir?
Yeah, really, really, really good, man. So we kind of changed the model and how we work. So before we were sort of like Noir Agency, and we'd just be doing sort of like branding and websites and digital assets and helping people articulate what they do. And we've recently changed and sort of rebranded slightly to Noir Ventures. Essentially, we're looking for ambitious founders in Web3. And the blockchain, NFT, AI, sort of all of the emerging technology industries. And we're investing in them from an early stage, really helping them grow as a business, build out their product, build more of a solid roadmap and business strategy. And then obviously the things that we do best, helping them build their brand, amplify their message, and articulate to the world what they do. So yeah, I think since 2020, we've launched now around 180 brands. We've raised over $170 million for the clients, and we only work with people in this industry. So yeah, we're pretty much all in on emerging technologies, and it's absolutely changed the way our entire business is run. So we've got 45 of us on the team, spread out all over the world, and yeah, it's been incredible, man.
Yeah, because one thing I thought about before having this chat with you was you don't really see agencies promoting branding within this space, you know, like, and helping brands evolve in this space. I mean, I'm sure you probably know you've got competition rather than I do, but like, it's such a niche market that I don't feel anyone does it particularly well apart from you guys. Like,
yeah, I mean, they're definitely we do have some competitors, but yeah, I think before we were pretty much competing with like every agency in the world, but now that we've really spent a lot of time understanding this industry and becoming a part of it too, like I would consider myself more of like a Web3 native now. I invested a lot in crypto and in a lot of projects and a lot of founders. I'm sort of heavily involved within the community, and most of my friends and people that I associate with are also working in the industry. So I feel like that's really what's advanced the niche that we've gone into. Also, we obviously are paid in stable coins, which I don't think a lot of agencies can do, especially if they're in the UK. I think there's still a sort of a bit of a grey area about being paid in crypto that people aren't sure about. But obviously in the UAE, it's quite normal. You can pay your rent, you can pay in restaurants, in bars, you can buy property. There's not much that you can't do with stable coins here. So yeah, I think that's really why we've been able to maneuver quite fast and build quite a big name for ourselves. We're partnered with like really amazing companies as well. So MoonPay that I mentioned earlier is like a multi-billion dollar company that really focus on the on-off ramp. So how does fiat interact with crypto, and how will that enable people who aren't crypto natives and crypto savvy to be able to interact with the blockchain without knowing that they are. I think they're going to be a huge player with onboarding billions of people into Web3. And then we also partnered with Fair XYZ, amazing team that have built this sort of NFT launch platform that allows anyone to launch a collection in minutes. Absolutely unbelievable, incredible team working with like some of the biggest brands in the world. And then we also work with Webflow. So we were one of the first sort of agencies to be building our websites and integrate them with Web3 technology on Webflow. So we build all our sites through the Webflow technology and work very closely with the Webflow partnership team.
How do you find these like partnerships?
Do you know what? We've just been recommended to work with certain people, and I'm just all about building long-term partnerships with people. We're not trying to be a sort of business that just works with 50 people a year. That's not how we want to scale. I've been in this business game for 6 years now, in the branding world, and for me it's more about how can we work with founders from day one and still be working with them 10 years later, because there's nothing better. You understand them, you understand what their vision is, you were part of helping create that in the beginning, so you're the best person to help advise them to get to the next stages as well. So yeah, I'm really all about like investing early. But yeah, the business, we've grown really fast. We're, from when I first met you, we've done 4x our revenue, so it's absolutely changed everything that we do and the way that we do it. And our sort of goal over the next 18 months is just to really invest heavily in sort of Web3, blockchain, NFT, AI, most emerging technology brands and founders, and help them build and prepare for the sort of next bull run that will be coming up.
Yeah. How do you identify, because I'm sure there'll be loads of brands that come to you and say, we want you to invest in us, blah, 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 blah. Like, how do you identify the good from the bad?
Yeah, it's very difficult. So normally we'll, conduct a project first. So we'll initially start our research and discovery process, help them with their brand strategy and how they articulate what they do. Then we'll build out their visual identity, and then all of the different touch points that any of their potential customers, partners, future employees will come across, build out all of their brand experience through their website and brand videos. And then after that point, so that's like a typical project for us, like launching a brand in the space. And then after that, that's when we really know how they work and what they're like and what their ambitions are. And that would be the point where we would normally invest in them, because we know who we're working with, and our team have built a relationship with them, and we understand their product and where it can go. So we don't make like a crazy amount of investments, and we work directly with a lot of VCs, particularly Rarestone Capital. So we've got good people that can look over and really do their due diligence on if it's a good project. But for me, it's all about the person. If the founders and the team are like just amazing people that are super passionate about the industry, then it's a no-brainer that to invest in them while we get the chance, while it's early, and really back them to get where they need to go.
Because I think a lot of investment is not necessarily down to the company; it's down to the people, right? What's their why? What's their drive? Like, why are they doing what they're doing? And what impact do they want to make for people? I mean, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and for us as well, we're not like just investing capital; we're investing ourselves, our resources. So it's quite different, because when we invest in a brand, we're going to be working with them every day as well. We're not just like putting money down and hoping that they do well and not really offering any value back to them. Like, we are producing value every single day, and we essentially act as their internal creative team and brand strategy team to help them get to where they want to get to. So it's quite a different relationship to, say, like a traditional VC that's just putting money in. Ours is much more about sort of shared success.
Yeah. Obviously, being your friend, I know, personal things about you as well. And one thing that I was obviously interested to talk about today was your recent finding of the fact that you've had ADHD all your life. How has that impacted your life, and what are you kind of doing to? Because I hate asking a question, then asking another question on top of that, but it just naturally evolves this way. It's like a lot of people talk about ADHD being a negative, but from what I understand from your side, you've actually leaned in on it and made it a positive rather than negative. So first of all, how has that impacted your life? And second of all, how have you made it an asset rather than being sad about it?
Yeah, definitely not sad. So, I'm turning 36 this year. And I've been spending pretty much the last 2 years since I got here really working on my health and my mindset, and, just really understanding myself. I think like your 20s, you're like partying and figuring yourself out, and you're very concerned of other people's opinions of you. And then your 30s, you start to really understand yourself. You're a lot less concerned with what anyone thinks of you, and really about what you think about yourself. I spent a lot of time just making sure my health is perfect, hitting the gym every day, making sure, I'm eating good food. I think what you put in your body is definitely going to be a reflection of the output of work and your like overall happiness and mentality. Yeah. I definitely didn't look after myself when I first started the business. I'd just work like crazy, and probably not that productive as well. So yeah, one of the things that I've spent time finding out is really like how I work and understanding my moods and my reactions. And one of my friends, Ash, recommended to me that I should actually just go and see a psychologist and see what they've got to say. And they were quite interested in, doing an ADHD test on me based upon me telling them a lot of information about myself and what my childhood was like and what my adulthood has been like and how I work and how I think. And anyway, I came in like one of the highest percentiles for having ADHD, which was, it's quite shocking. But then in some ways it wasn't. When he started to explain like the different symptoms, I was just like, that's been my entire life, but I didn't know it was anything. Yeah. And I do think that obviously there's everyone seems to have like ADHD, and everyone seems to have like something that's going on with them. And I do think as a society, that's quite a bad thing. We're always trying to label ourselves. So I'm not labeling myself as anything, I think it's more just having that information allows me to understand what ADHD is. So yeah, the way that it works when you have ADHD is you have quite a big problem with impulsivity. Not everybody, but there's different types. And one of mine was, I'm a very impulsive person. Tend to sort of act now, think later, which I do think has like got my business to where it should be, and sort of helped me make decisions to like leave England and come here, and a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
And I think we all have impulsivity. It's not like just people with ADHD that have got it. I'd probably just got it quite a lot more, and it's more the dopamine feeling that I'm trying to chase. So, once I purchase something or do something or book a holiday or travel somewhere, you get that kind of excitement, and that's like the feeling that I think I'm trying to replicate, without trying to fully understand myself. And then with work, I have a major problem with focus, which I've just been fighting forever. And I think the craziest thing is obviously like you always just assume that how you are is just how everyone is. And then, when I spoke to this psychologist, he was like, no, not everyone isn't like that. Not everyone drinks 6 cups of coffee a day and will fall asleep randomly. Like this is something that you built a life around and not really dealt with. So it hasn't really like rapidly changed my life in any way. I just understand it more. So I now understand to not be drinking 4 to 6 cups of coffee a day and be chasing these dopamine impulsiveness. And he did explain it to me as essentially when you have ADHD, dopamine goes up into your brain and dopamine is not just this, great feeling of, how do I describe
feeling
it?
Happy,
feeling happy and fulfilled. And, they say a lot of people get dopamine hits off Instagram when someone likes or comments on your photos and things, or gives you a message. Notifications essentially gives you a dopamine fix. But it's also like your focus and your ambition and your drive. And it's essential for you to be able to concentrate on what you're doing. If you have no dopamine, then you can't. Like this, what happens is you actually fall asleep. And this would happen to me like all the time. And I'd be so confused because I'm like, well, I'm getting my 8 hours sleep a night and I've got my REM and I've got my deep sleeps. Like, why am I falling asleep in the day? And it was all just to do with this sort of chemical imbalance that's going on in my brain of how the dopamine stays there. So there's a lot of like medication, people with ADHD, and what it essentially does is just blocks the dopamine from leaving your body in the same way. Yeah. But also, I think if you can't understand yourself, you can't actually make any changes.
Yeah.
And, being able to actually understand, I act like this because of this, you can stop those triggers and you can change the way you are. So, sometimes I'd be quite impatient on things, or I'd be a little bit too on edge. And now I'm like, okay, when the feeling comes, I know what that feeling is now. And it's ADHD. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's normal. But you just need to understand it so that you can stop those triggers and stop you reacting a certain way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been, it's quite interesting at 35 years old to find out something. And, I've actually watched a lot of talks with Simon Sinek. He's got ADHD. And, there's a lot of like business leaders around the world. It's quite common.
Yeah.
And I think it's more like a bit of a superpower. Because when you are intensely focused, you're obsessed. And I think that works really well when you work in business and essentially in creativity, which is my entire career is built around my ability to work in creativity and come up with ideas quickly and be able to interact and iterate and work with lots of other creatives. So I do think it's a blessing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the right way to look at like neurological problems that people have. It's just a different, it's like, what I found out when I was a kid, I was dyslexic. It's no different to that. It's just a different way of learning. It's just a different way of processing information, a different way of thinking. It doesn't have to be a negative at all.
Yeah.
And I imagine there's millions of people out there that suffer with ADHD and have no idea. And I do think it's very hard for people who don't have ADHD to understand, because everyone will believe they have ADHD, right? Because everyone procrastinates, everyone can, get a little bit lost in their train of thought and be quite forgetful. So they're all like very common symptoms that everyone could have. But I would recommend that, if you do think that you might have some of the symptoms, you should go talk to a psychologist, because, I spent an hour talking about my entire life and there was a lot of in-depth questions. It wasn't like a simple test that just said, yes, you are, no, you're not.
Yeah. yeah, I mean, being self-aware is so key. And I think, it's like looking at everything from a benefit perspective, really. It's not like looking at anything of that's a negative. I think, a lot of the way, the human brain works is also how you talk to yourself, right? And if you talk to yourself that it's going to be a negative to your life, then you're always going to be up against it if that's where you think. It's about how you kind of like dial into yourself, understand yourself, because it's important for you, it's important for your friends, it's important for like partners, like everything, for you to be self-aware and like, hey, like this is me, and this is my personality traits, and this is what it is. But as you mentioned, that it sounds like a superpower to me, because being able to be uber focused in that sense, like, would be, I mean, it's I would love to just be able to just switch off all distractions for 8 hours of a day and just focus purely on the work that I've got. Sometimes I'm able to do that, sometimes I'm not. But yeah, it's to be able to use that as a benefit is key, mate. So
yeah, I think the most important thing as you get older as well is you really do need to work on yourself, just the same as going to the gym. Like you said, how you speak to yourself is everything. And I think that it's quite easy to, with these labels as well, to kind of use it as a bit of an excuse.
Yeah, it's like a get out of jail free card. Yeah,
especially with dyslexic. I always used to hear other people be like, oh, well, I'm dyslexic, I can't do that. And I'm like, well, I'm dyslexic too, and I can definitely still do that. It doesn't mean you can't do things.
Yeah.
And if you have ADHD, it doesn't mean that that's an excuse for your erratic behavior. I think you have to be very accountable for your own triggers and how you interact with people.
Yeah.
But life is just about learning, who you are and how you act. And everyone is so different, regardless of neurological or neurodivergent issues that people have. We're all just so different. So it's really just about understanding first, how can you be able to control your emotions and your reactions and take the time to really think about what you're doing and learn to respond instead of reacting in a lot of situations. I think that's everyone. I don't think it's anything to do with, the way your brain is wired. We're all so individual, and it's just like this ongoing development that we need to have of understanding ourselves and becoming the best version of ourselves that we can be. So yeah, less about the ADHD and much more about, like, I think, for both of us as well, and our entire friendship group, we're all just trying to be the best version we can be and the nicest person we can be, because no one ever feels happy being angry and, being upset and confused. It's not a nice way to live, to be stressed out. If you can alleviate yourself of these issues and get to a point in your life where you wake up happy every day, which I think is where I'm at. I feel like every day I wake up and I'm very, very happy and very grateful for everything I have in my life in comparison to what my life was like growing up to where it is today. It's like, it's a completely different world. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, listen, I want to thank you again for coming down and doing this for a second time. Obviously, it was so important, I think, because we always knew that, we was going to evolve from the first time we met. And I mean, if you compare it to now, we've got lights, cameras, proper microphone set. Before it was a microphone plugged into
it was a bit of a DIY job last time.
Yeah, and I remember us saying, is there going to be video? And I was like, well, I recorded it, but it looked like we was like looking through the eye of a fly.
Yeah, it's like a fisheye lens or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
and you've developed as well, man. Like, I've been watching and listening to the podcast and all the guests you've had on, but I think we've all grown up a lot and changed a lot.
Yeah.
So you've got to be really proud of everything you've achieved as well.
Yeah, I mean, one thing talking about self-awareness is, I've openly spoken about this a few times, and I thought having a therapist was a bit of a dirty word at one point because you just associate it with having problems. But I think, again, a part of being self-aware is understanding my faults and wanting to work on them, and also some past traumas that I didn't really thought affected me until, I was 33 years old. And one of the things that I spoke about was, not feeling fulfillment and not recognizing where I've come and what I've done, and always focusing on what's next. Let's make the next thing good, rather than going, oh, that was good, celebrate that. And one of the things that I'm focusing on at the moment is practicing gratitude. I'm doing a 30-day gratitude challenge at the moment, and just talking in specific about stuff that is super happy, like that I feel super happy and grateful for. And I think actually, while we're on that note, I haven't done my day of gratitude yet. So I think the day of gratitude today is, being fortunate enough to be able to have friends and people around me that want to come and sit and talk to me and share insightful conversations like this. And then you get yourself trained into thinking, I'm actually grateful for this sort of things, and I'm appreciative of being able to have this. And just to sit here for 2 and a bit hours or whatever it's been, and just talk about things that are going on in life, and just interesting topics that we want to talk about and share knowledge with other people, is stuff that you can be grateful for. So thank you for that. I want to make sure that I do acknowledge it, because ultimately sometimes you're like, okay, cool, thanks, yeah, all right, but no, I really appreciate it. And having you a part of my friendship group as well the last 2.5 years has been great, because one thing that you do really well is surround yourself with good people. And everyone that I've met within your circle has been they're great people. So yeah, you should give yourself a pat on the back as well. And when I said earlier on, like I felt like it's been 10 years, it's because it's a weird feeling, because it feels short because that time has gone so quickly, but then it feels long because the amount that we've grown in between that period. You think to yourself, it's impossible to come that far in 2.5 years, but then it feels like such a short time. And
it feels normal quite quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even though everything has changed since.
Yeah. I mean, time moves so quickly now. It's like, it feels short, but then when you look back and you're like, wow, I've actually learned this much in this period of time. And I mean, even from my holiday this time last year, I think we was going on holiday.
Yeah, Thailand, wasn't it?
Yeah, which was awesome. But yeah, thanks for coming on. And I'm sure we're probably going to sit down in the next couple of years and talk about Web 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, and
yeah, we'll just keep it going.
And how we just have a workforce of AGI underneath us.
I was going to say, we probably won't even need to sit down. Our AI robots will just have the conversation for us.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
And I'll obviously put all the information on how you can follow Anthony. I think it's weird because we've got friends that call you Anthony, but I like to call you Logan. So it's like Anthony, Scott, Logan.
I've got 3 first names. So
yeah.
Everyone just picks one.
But I'll put his Instagram page. Go check him out. He's got some awesome content that he shares, and obviously go and check him out. If you're a brand within the Web3 space that want to partner up with I like to call him Logan, so I'm going to call him Logan. If you'd like to partner up with Logan, then reach out to him and make yourself known, because it can really help you and your brand take yourself to the next level within that space. And obviously, we don't have any sponsors or anything on this podcast to financially pay for what we do and pay for the insightful values. All we want from you is literally just to share this content with anyone that you find or think that this would be useful for them. And obviously, if you do like it and you are listening to the episodes, head over to the pages on all of our streaming platforms and just give us a follow, a like, because that's going to help us more than you can imagine. So thanks for tuning in again. Logan, thank you very much, mate. And we'll see you next time.